New York gun laws. Think you're legal? One wrong move in New York, you're a felon. Florida calls it freedom. North Carolina calls it tradition. New York, well, they call it a felony. Here, the state doesn't just regulate guns, it weaponizes paperwork. Licenses, surveillance zones, storage laws, and rules so confusing, they trap even the most law-abiding citizen. And people are getting trapped. At JFK and LaGuardia, dozens of out-of-state travelers have been arrested for declaring firearms at check-in, guns they legally owned back home. So let's break down New York's gun laws. No politics, no panic, just what you need to know to stay legal, stay sharp, and stay dangerous in the right way. Chapter 1. Buying a gun in New York. Want to buy a gun here? Get ready to beg for permission. Alright, we're starting with handguns. Handguns in New York aren't just about buying, they're about possession. You can't legally possess one at all without a pistol license. That license requires you to be 21 or older, unless you're active duty or honorably discharged military, in which case you can apply at 18. But you might ask yourself, what if a family member gifts you one or tries to give you one before that? It doesn't matter. A gift isn't a loophole. The pistol still has to be added to your license through the county licensing authority, and if you're under 21 or unlicensed, you can't take it. Bottom line, no license, no sale. Now, long guns, on the other hand, basic rifles and shotguns are still 18 with a federal check. But since 2022, most semi-auto rifles now require you to be 21 and get a state-issued semi-auto rifle license. What about private sales? Nope, dealer only unless it's close family. What about ammo? That's a background check every time. And storage, it's got to be locked, unloaded, and hidden, especially in your car. And New York has banned assault weapons since 2013, unless you registered yours back then. Now, New York politicians call it assault weapons, but let's be clear, that's a political term, a crap technical firearms classification, and it's meant to incite worry and fear in non-gun people. The state banned rifles based on how they look, pistol grips, adjustable stocks, flash hiders, features that don't change how the gun works. So the same rifle can be legal in one setup and a felony in another, just because of the furniture. That's not safety, that's cosmetics dressed up as law. So you've managed to get your hands on a gun in this authoritarian state. Congratulations. But carrying it, that's a whole different battlefield. Chapter 2. Getting a concealed carry permit in New York. After the Bruin case, New York had to drop its old proper cause excuse. But don't celebrate, they just built new walls. Training is a must. 16 hours in class, 2 hours on the range. I mean, to be honest, I say flip those numbers. I'd rather be forced to shoot my gun than listen to someone. You also need 4 references. In-person interview. Good moral character check is what they call this. I wouldn't trust my friends to give references. But what about in New York City? Well, they add even more hoops through the NYPD License Division. Renewals in New York City and nearby counties, it's every 3 years. Elsewhere, recertify every 3 years too. And after all of that, you'll realize most of the state is still off limits. New York lets you carry a gun with a license, but bans you from carrying in nearly every place you'd actually need it. That's like selling you a car, then banning you from every road. Chapter 3. Sensitive locations in New York, also known as gun-free traps. New York is a sensitive location. They practically invented sensitive locations, and then made half the map off limits. Subways, buses, bars, Times Square, schools, libraries, polling places, and even many churches, those are off limits. Private businesses, courts rolled back the default ban. Now you can carry unless the owner posts a sign or tells you otherwise. So that's a small little smidge of wiggle room for us gun owners. Good rule of thumb is, if it's crowded, touristy, or government run, leave it locked up. This is why New Yorkers go deep concealment. You don't just need a permit, you need the right gear. That's where Relax Fit Tactical comes in. We make carry possible, even when the state tries to make it impossible. Chapter 4. Transport and magazines in New York. So you're driving with your gun. Well, I guess treat it like contraband. Statewide, it's got to be unloaded, locked, out of sight. The law requires firearms in cars to be in a lockbox if left unattended, not just out of sight. In New York City, the ammo is separate and case is non-transparent. I've never seen a transparent case, but that's what they say. Magazines, it's now 10 rounds max. Forget the old 7-round rule, that's gone. The only way I would have 7 rounds in my gun is if I shot all my other rounds. And what about crossing state lines? It's only legal under federal FOPA, also known as Safe Passage Clause. Gun locked, unloaded, and don't stop for anything but gas. Bottom line, in New York, you don't just transport a gun. You tiptoe through legal landmines. And if you think that's bad, wait until Chapter 7 where we get into the over-the-top surveillance. But first, more on out-of-state permits. Chapter 5, New York Police, Travel, and Out-of-State Permits. That carry permit from Florida, Texas, or Ohio, in New York, it's worthless. Zero reciprocity. They don't care. And here's the trap. Every year, travelers land at JFK and LaGuardia, walk up to the counter, and declare their handgun exactly the way TSA tells them to. And back home, it's legal. In New York, they walk away in handcuffs, facing felony charges. Your only shield is the federal FOPA. I don't want to say FOPA. It sounds so dumb. And that only covers continuous transport. Continuous. The second you stay overnight in a hotel or take a detour, you're outside the law. Think about how insane that is. And police? The books say you don't have to inform unless asked. But let's be real. The cops always ask. And if you lie, hesitate, or fumble your words, you just turned a stop into a probable cause. The survival rules are simple. Don't rely on your out-of-state permit. Transport locked, unloaded, and non-stop. And when the cop asks, and he will, answer clearly and calmly. That's how you avoid becoming the next headline. Chapter 6, Red Flag Laws. Now this is a short chapter since there isn't much to say on it. In New York, you don't need to commit a crime to lose your guns. One call, and under red flag laws, your firearms can be seized before you ever step into a courtroom. Temporary orders last days. Final orders can run a year and they can be renewed. You don't even have to be charged to be disarmed. Oh, but they didn't stop there. This next chapter goes beyond firearms. Chapter 7, the surveillance and enforcement in New York. Now, New York didn't just write laws. They built a digital cage to enforce them. Times Square isn't just gun-free. I'm telling you, it's ringed with cameras, license plate readers, and checkpoints. Walk through it with a firearm and the system actually flags you before a cop ever lays eyes on you. And it's not just Times Square. The NYPD runs plate readers on bridges, tunnels, and highways. The moment you drive in, your car gets scanned against databases. If your name pops for a past permit issue, a red flag order, even an expired license, you're on their radar. All of this is posted on NewYorkCity.gov, NYC.gov. They're not hiding it, they're bragging about it. But cameras and license plates are just the start. The city has also piloted weapons detection scanners, tech that uses millimeter wave or terahertz imaging to spot objects under clothing. In theory, it can see the outline of a gun beneath a shirt. In practice, it would be false alarms everywhere. Belt buckles, phones, backpacks, and huge bottlenecks if they would try to run it in a crowded subway station. Now, if you add in the privacy fights under the Post Act, and you've got a city testing Big Brother without the results to back it up. But you know, I gotta say, I did watch a documentary on how casinos are using sort of this type of technology to see if someone's carrying objects or guns or cheating tools under their shirts. So it's not too far off. Bottom line is, New York isn't just regulating guns, it's building an enforcement grid that watches, scans, and flags you long before you ever draw. Talk about a police state. But what's next for New Yorkers? Well, here's the kicker. These laws aren't stable. Every year, another lawsuit reshapes the battlefield. So the rules today, they might not be the rules of tomorrow. That's why you need a strategy. At Relax Fit Tactical, we make gear for exactly this fight. Stealthy, reliable, built for concealed carry, even when the state stacks the deck. Comment below if you found this helpful, if we need to cover your state next, or just comment 2A. Thank you. Don't be lame, subscribe.